Welcome to the Leadership and Literacy Podcast. I'm your host, Jarmar Muhammad, and we're coming to you from the capital city, Montgomery, Alabama. Today, we have a special guest. This young man definitely walks by faith and not by sight. And if you're looking for an example of how to order your steps in the Word, then you want to come and check out my guest right here, Mr. Anthony Brown. What's up, Ant?
How are you, sir? Thank you.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Good,
Yes, sir.
good to be here. Always good to have a conversation with an old friend and interested in the conversation. So let's roll, brother.
Hey, well, we about to get it on, man. As usual, or as we would do on all leader souls, as I'm going to call them. I'm just setting the bar right now. We want to get a little background and just kind of understand, how did you get into leadership and establishing a school and all this type of pioneering in the field of education?
Sure. So I'm from Montgomery, Alabama, as you know. Went to Lanier High School.
All right.
Went to Alabama State University. And I come from a long line of educators. My father actually passed in 2022, but he was a principal and he was a pastor here in the Montgomery area. But when I finished school at Alabama State University, I went to the Autauga County school system. I taught, I coached. I was a head football coach. I worked at central office, but my most meaningful work came from being an at-risk specialist and being a mentor at the brother-to-brother and sister-to-sister mentoring program, which I started many moons ago, right?
Yes,
so,
sir.
When I was at Alabama State, I had the opportunity to pledge a fraternity and, being a member of fraternity, going home with some of my frat brothers, I realized that everybody did not have what I had at home, which was a solid mom, solid dad at the house. And so I think that's when the seed was originally planted. A lot of people see me now as like, how is Anthony leading, But God orders our steps, like you said a while ago. And so I worked in the Autauga County school system for about 13 years. God called me to come back to Montgomery because this is where the need is most prevalent with our African-American boys. And so came back by way of St. Jude. My brother Fred was the athletic director. I came back as the head of school or principal at St. Jude. The enrollment was going up. Everybody was getting excited. The athletic program was going well. And then the rug was swept out from under me, which was I love to say, which was a dark time in my life. And so I had to make a decision whether I go back to my pastor, Farrell Duncan, said, hey, they have an opening at Lanier, go apply for that. Do I go back to the Autauga County school system? Do I apply for the State Department? But then I forged ahead with something that I always wanted to do, never thought I could do. I know I didn't have the personal resources to do, which was open up an all-male school. So we did that in 2015. People that know me know I like to be alone. I like to be by myself. I love to cultivate spaces. I love to create. But when you say, how did you get thrust into leadership, it's nothing that I sought out. Sometimes in life, God puts callings and anointings on you that you didn't ask for. He just chooses who he chooses to choose. You know what I mean?
So you don't think being an SOS leader had anything to do with your role as a leader?
Well, I appreciate my time being an SOS leader. I made some good friends. There was a guy named Jarmar Muhammad back in the day that I met through SOS, and so many other good friends. And so I thank God for the SOS
Shout out
leaders.
to the SOS
Shout out to
by the way.
SOS leaders.
Yeah.
Had the opportunity to travel and actually learn more about the university while I was there, which, again, I have friends who went to schools all over the world. And but to me, there's no school better than Alabama State University.
Yeah.
For what it meant for when my parents didn't have a chance to go anywhere else, it was Alabama State that gave them an opportunity. So I'm always indebted to Alabama State University as well.
Yeah, definitely. ASU definitely turned my life around. I kind of spoke on it a little bit in the opening monologue. Also, when you just talk about being an SOS leader, that was kind of one of my first times kind of getting in front of a group of people and having to actually lead. You're the first face that students see when they come to campus, and you're showing them the dynamics, the ins and outs of registration, where your academic buildings are, and you have to know this stuff and be able to designate certain things. So it's definitely helped me transition and be a strong leader
Sure.
in my everyday activities. So moving forward, you got the school, it's downtown. The students are doing golf. The students are, I saw you got barbering going on in the school. They got music in the school. It's just all so many multifaceted things. So what's going to be next? Are we going to see dormitories downtown next?
Man, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
So, there is a lot of things going on, and again, I think I'm a cultivator more than an educator. I just like to create spaces where we can thrive in our natural environment. So if you bring in a Terrence Baldwin for choir, or Kevin King and Liddell for art, or Dr. Tania Stewart, naturally we're so gifted that
Yeah.
if you give us an opportunity to thrive, that's who we naturally are. And as I receive accolades for Valiant Cross, it also makes me cringe sometimes, because people are saying these guys are so well spoken, they're so well dressed, and they're so nice. I'm like, what did you expect?
Mm-hmm.
You give us the resources and the tools. This is who we naturally are.
That's
Like,
right.
obviously we persevered, and we've gone through so many things historically. Like, you give us an opportunity and watch out. And so that's what we're trying to do. And the biggest thing, as we're going to talk about leadership, I'm sure, one of the biggest things I always say, and I always remind myself in leadership, is to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's important as well. Stay low as you can go, and stay low as you can be as a person, and always get out of the way, because if it's true, and if it's real, if it's authentic, then it's bigger than you. And if you think
That's
that
right.
you're the leader extraordinaire, then you got a lot to learn.
Yeah, that's right. I always say to be a leader, you have to be a good follower.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot you can learn by just being behind someone and kind of urging and empowering others.
Sure.
I think that's the true leadership to me.
Sure.
Being able to empower or inspire. I think that's how you kind of help connect the dots and really generate a movement. Because if it's just you out there, and it's not really a movement. You need people with the same energy, mindset, and things to that effect. So when we also just kind of thinking about leadership and um, just how you kind of set yourself up, I always like to refer to the leadership induction. It's a book. I don't know if they kind of can see it here on the set, but it's a book called The Principal Induction, and it kind of talks about certain things leaders should do in order to set themselves up for success. And one of the things they say that you should do, you should create a team that's all about you. So I wanted to just kind of pick your brain a little bit and just see, do you actually have a team of people? Or if I'm an aspiring leader, what would be the, uh, how could I create, what should be a part of my core group?
Right.
If I were to make that question a little
Right.
bit more appropriate.
Sure. And I know you said it should be all about a team that's about you. And I just to build upon that, I think it needs to be a team that's all about whatever you're leading. It needs to be a team that's about that vision. Because I've brought people on that are, or I've been around people that may be just happy to be a part of something that you are doing, right? But that'll run out.
Yeah.
If they're not really invested into the mission of what's going on, then the work gets too tedious, it gets too challenging. So they need to be people who are like-minded, equally yoked, or in alignment with whatever that vision may be. So whether it's any public school, any private school, whatever, a church, a Fortune 500 company, if they're not aligned with that, then the work's going to get too hard for them, or the lift will get too hard. So first thing I look for at Valiant Cross Academy are people who are sincerely interested in success of black boys, and black and brown boys, I'll say, to be honest, and if they don't all the way understand that, or where we come from historically and in that context, and they're just doing it for what they see right now, then they're not all the way vested, and it's not going to be a good fit. And that doesn't mean they're not a good person, but sometimes they're a good person. They may be on the wrong bus, or they may be on the wrong seat on the bus. So I just look for people who are vested into African American boys or boys of color.
With that being said, just the having a all male school, that's a unique concept Why all males? I'm quite sure
Yeah.
you ask that all the time,
Yeah.
but why?
So obviously it's a Christian school, and I like to say Christ following school.
That's right.
Unapologetically, right? And so I believe that, not that I believe, it says that man came here first,
Mm-hmm.
and man was put here to cultivate. Man was put here to produce, provide, and protect for society, right? And
Yes,
so
sir.
if you look around now, I think that's what we see that's going on. Man's not being in their place. So if you get the men right, if we can just get these men back in the home, even if they're not literally physically in the home means just present in your child's life.
Yeah.
So if we can get that part right, then we're going to be, I think, solving a lot of the problems that are going on now. A lot of these young men are walking around like zombies because they don't have a true identity and they don't understand what it means to truly be a man. And again, that's somebody who provides, produces, and protects that family at
Yes,
all
sir.
costs, And so that's what we're trying to do unapologetically. Like we're trying to raise strong fathers, strong husbands, and strong community leaders.
That's right.
One of the kickbacks we get is we'll get parents that'll come by and say, I just want them at a school with girls. I want them at a school with girls, right? And so now God has given me the wherewithal to be able to look them in the eye and say, you know what, this school is being ran by a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you want somebody who's going to teach your young man of what that really looks like and what that means. And so I
Yeah.
know what it means because I had a man in front of me.
That's right.
Which was my father. And I always believe that every male should have somebody behind them that they're mentoring, somebody that's their age, the same age like we are, who can kind of hold them accountable and kind of say, we can relate to each other.
Yes.
But they also need a man that's out in front of them as well to kind of show them like this is the path, or these were the hiccups I made in life, and this is where the trajectory that I think you should go on, young man.
Yes, indeed. All right. And by the way, that's a strong Omega man. I just want to put that staple in there.
Yeah, but a Omega and a Delta sometimes raise a nuke.
Key word is sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sometimes. Hey, we're going to go to break on that and bring you some education news. We'll be right back with leadership and literacy. Here we go.
Are you a realtor looking to showcase your properties in a way that stands out? An insurance agent aiming to build trust and educate your clients? Or a nonprofit ready to share your mission and inspire action on a larger scale? At Digital Media Collective, we specialize in turning your message into a compelling story that reaches the audience you need. With today's fast paced digital landscape, your message deserves much more than just being heard. It needs to resonate. That's where we come in. Our team offers cutting edge solutions like professional podcasts, video marketing, and social media content that transforms your vision into powerful connections. When you partner with Digital Media Collective, you're not just investing in media, you're investing in growth, visibility, and impact. Let us help you craft a message that reaches hearts and drives results. Let's connect and bring your vision to life. Contact us today to schedule a consultation. Together, we amplify your voice and take your communication to the next level.
All right, welcome back. And we're going to, keep the conversation going. You got charter schools, public schools, private schools, and now it's a new concept, or maybe it's not, it's new to me, concept called micro schools. So we're going to bring our guests back in to just kind of get an idea or a feeler about what's going on with micro schools. And not only that, what about the fact that there are different schools out here? You got private, public, and charter. That's one level, and it just seems like kids are going every which way.
Mhm.
And then we can kind of get into the micro school. But how do you feel about the different entities? Public, private, charter. My school, when I was a leader at a middle school here in Montgomery, we had maybe 700 kids.
Mhm.
Um, after so many years, they established a charter school. Then I went down to 500 kids. So our kids are being taken out of schools and put into other schools. Is that to make a better situation, or is that to create just another learning opportunity?
Yeah. And so I wouldn't even say taken out. I would say, I would say if I have two girls, so I would say who better to decide than me and my family what school my girls should go to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say, we talk about private charter, micro school, home school, whatever, private school, right? And I think the argument needs to be more toward what schools are good and what schools are bad, because there are good and bad private schools. There are good and bad public, there are good and bad charter. It's just like there are good and bad all types of people, right? So I think we need to look at the school for, is it giving my child what it needs to have? And so whether that's a home school or private or public, I think that would be the move. And I think parents should have the opportunity to just say, this school's not working for my child. So
And that's what I was gonna ask. Is then now a bad school based on the parent, that household?
yeah,
It can be good for this particular student, but it may not suit my child.
sure. So that's like even like with our school, right? When I opened it up, I thought this school was amazing because this is a school I would love to go to.
Right.
But then we had a couple people, maybe year two, that said, I don't want my child at this school. And I was like, what? And then I realized, you know what? It ain't about you. This is not the school for everybody's child.
That's right.
So there are no perfect schools, but you just got to look for the right fit for your child. And so now I have the grace to say, matter of fact, if we have a parent who maybe complain that it's too structured, it's too disciplined, or they're too rigorous in the classrooms, or I had a couple parents say, "You're petty, Mr. Brock." Well, if that's the case, my dad is petty, right? Because I believe that a child, you have to raise them a certain way. I believe you have to raise them a certain way. And I think sometimes we allow children, which to me is a microcosm of where we are as in a society. I think children don't have that structure and those routines in place that they need. That's personally, that's me, right? And so if you're somebody who thinks, my child just needs to go wild out in school and do what they want to do, make all the decisions, that's fine. But as for me and Valiant Cross, it's going to be done where the young men are going to be raised a certain type of way, which is the way I was raised. That's all I know. That's all I know.
Right. That's
But when you talk about micro schools, so we've opened up a micro school, and I don't know if we're the first in Montgomery, but we've opened up a micro school. We have about 8 to 10 students over at St. Paul African American, AME Church, which is my home church, and it's the home church of Rosa Parks as well. So we had about 8 young people that were showing up at church, or that showed up to the summer program we have. And Dr. Lover, who's the pastor there, said, you know what, why don't we open up a school? And so Valiant Cross now has helped to start that school. And it's Valiant Cross Academy at St. Paul. And so they're able to take part in the scholarships. And we have 8 amazing young people. Some may have been truant, some homeschooled, or some just wanted a smaller setting. And so, who are we to say this is how education should look all the time for every student? It's an assembly line. This is what you have to go through. Why can't we have just being a part of traveling around last year, looking at a lot of schools that are different. Like I saw a construction school that only 3 hours a day they were doing their core subjects, but the other 6 to 7 hours they were building homes. Same thing with a sailing school. So there's schools around the country, like if it's a music school or if it's an art school, why shouldn't they spend most of their time on what God has planted inside of them?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know anything personally from the history I learned K-12. I can't really give you that back, right?
Yes.
So that wasn't important to me. You know what I'm saying? And so why don't we get those kids to focus on what's important to me, right? Because the history that I was learning K-12 was irrelevant to me, first of all. So now the history that we're teaching is different at our school. But however, that's just getting in the weeds. But anyway.
Yeah, but I understand why not have something that dives into you and pulls out what's in you.
What's in you?
I think that's what education is.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're spending 40 hours on a minimum. We're spending 40 hours a week, right? And I already know I want to drive trucks or I want to weld. Why should I not be spending most of my time doing that? Instead of what this person said, this is what your education needs to look like. This is what you should be doing. If I know I want to play the guitar, I know I want to be a musician, right? why would I not? Why am I wasting all this time day after day, monotonous ritual? I'm just coming in. Mama had to beg me to get out of bed. Why not, feed more into the passions of the students? So that's the shift that I think needs to take place in our education.
Oh yes, most definitely, most definitely. Now, I've read this book, and I'm going to keep bringing this book up. By the way, it's the book called The Leadership Challenge. And the Leadership Challenge it gives different 5 practices of leaders, things that leaders consistently do. Okay, and so I want you to kind of take a look at those. I shared them with you, maybe on your phone, maybe, and if you all would share it on the screen here so the people can see those 5 principles. Um, and I want you to share, if you look at those principles, it's 5 of them. I want you to share what you think are your top 3.
Wow.
But I'm going to go ahead and kind of set us off here, and I'm going to give you my top 2.
Yes, sir.
And this is something that I always share with people that work with me, used to work for me, especially my old lifeguarding team. I always ask them about leadership, and I ask them, "Hey, are you a leader?" And then they'll always say yes, and I say, "Okay, well, what do leaders do?" And they'll say, uh, uh, uh. And I think that's the same with kind of everybody. If you ask someone if they're a leader, they're always gonna probably say, "Well, yeah, I think I am a leader." But when you ask them what do leaders do, it's kind of a delayed response, so to speak. So my 2 things that I feel from the based on the leadership principles that leaders should do is leaders must model the way and inspire a shared vision. If you are a leader, you're modeling. You're always setting the tone. You're setting the example. And you're also modeling the desired behavior. I think that's very important. And then also, if I am a leader, I have to, as we were talking about earlier at the top of the show, inspire a shared vision. It's how do you have a movement without a vision? You know, if we're moving, where are we going to? So leadership model the way and inspire a shared vision.
Mm,
What you got?
okay. So I'll just go to the next 3 then, because they're all 5 good, right?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, I was gonna see which 2 you went with, and I was gonna take the next 2. So
Oh, hey,
next 3.
that's
So
fine.
when you talk about challenging the process, that's what I just talked about with when you look at how schooling has always been done.
Yeah,
I think how can a real leader come in and say, you know what, if they're gonna keep asking for these test scores, or if they're gonna keep saying this child needs this to get this ACT score to get in school, or they need to take work keys, or they need to have this ASVAB to get in the military, then why don't we spend more time on that and stop playing the game and dancing around? So a leader is somebody who can come in and quickly say, let's figure out what that desired goal is, and let's just focus on that, right? That may be a leader, right?
yeah,
And then enabling others to act. Of course, you have to inspire, and that goes with the one you said, enabling others to act. You have to create a table of people that are thought partners, because I realized definitely at Valiant Cross, I never think I'm the smartest in the room, but I don't think anybody's smarter than me in the room either. That's just being hungry and humble. But you have to have a group of people around you that you allow to make decisions and able to act, and they'll buy in more to the vision. And let me get my phone back up real quick, Mr.
yeah,
Muhammad.
yes, sir.
And encouraging the heart, right? So that's what
Yeah,
I talked about earlier. If you're not inspired to work specifically in my line of work with African American boys, like if I can't show them enough videos or take them on enough trips to other schools to see the plight of black boys right now, then if I haven't encouraged their heart, and I'm gonna close that real quick and say, a leader, just because you're a leader doesn't mean you're a good leader. You can still be a leader, right?
yes, sir.
So that young man who encourages 3 other guys to get in the car with him, he's a leader too, and he knows he's about to go do something that he shouldn't do. So
Yeah,
there's so many. So leadership means a lot, and so we could talk about good leadership, bad leadership. Um,
yes, sir.
but when you talk about good leadership, there are some things that should take place. But there's so many types of leaders out there, and so I always tell guys, these kids that sometimes y'all are hanging out with or trying to impress, they are leaders. They just have not tweaked it for positivity.
For positivity.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
I think
right.
that's the next step of it, is figuring out how do we create a lot of positive or good leaders. And I don't want to sound judgmental, but what's a positive leader and what's a negative leader?
What's a
But
negative leader?
yeah, but there are so many types of leaders out there.
Yes, most definitely. I think you know, I always say a leader is going to show you two things: what to do or what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's very, very, very important.
Yeah.
So that's kind of also kind of the I guess kind of segue into kind of what one of these next questions I wanted to ask you. Um, when we're thinking of leadership and we're thinking of literacy, yeah, you have to be somewhat literate in leadership. All right, like you say, if a person that's encouraging someone to get in the car to go do something negative, that's a level of leadership. But they're using some level of persuasion to get them to someone to follow them. You know, what we're trying to do here with leadership and literacy is increase the the literacy of leadership. So we're talking about different things we can do to increase it, right? You got the Alabama Literacy Act, um, and it's challenging now our third grade students to pass an exam, and if they don't pass the exam or show effective growth, then they're retained. So what are some of the things we can do as leaders? And I said at the top of my monologue that I want to, if not start a campaign, I want to join a campaign to kind of get out here and combat illiteracy.
That's right. So you can join Valiant Books on Oak Street first. Hey,
That's what I wanted
right,
to
right,
go.
right. So we're opening a bookstore and coffee shop that doesn't sell books when it doesn't sell coffee. It's really focusing on literacy.
That's right.
So we will have literacy programs that are in the building looks amazing already. It's right next to the King's Campus on Oak Street on the Civil Rights Trail. And that is for tutoring. That is for literacy, because we got to make reading cool again, right? And so I think throughout the years, so when I walk in a classroom at my school and Miss Townsend is teaching the autobiography of Malcolm X or The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, and I see the students engaged, and I'm like, why is he engaged to this book, but he's not engaged to Harry, whatever, and Jane? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they don't see themselves in that. And so we got to figure out how do we get students interested in reading, and we have to have a plethora